Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 3.5 degrees of Taurus, which will be exact on April 22nd at 10:26 p.m. New York time, and on April 23rd at 3:36 a.m. London time, UK time. So really nice and early in the morning for Europe. And so this makes the beginning of a new moon. And so, as best as you can, of course, with any new moon, get really quiet around the time of the new moon and see if you're getting any new messages or any new ideas, or if you're tuning into something with this new moon energy. And if you are, then harvest those ideas and fold them into your intention settings process, which we do every time around the time of the new moon. And we'll talk a little bit more about that process and the best times to be doing that at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And please also take advantage of the timestamps that I have added to the description part of the video, because it could be useful if you want to go back and forth between certain parts in the video, or if you just want to watch this video in shorter sequences. All right. Now, this new moon aligns with Uranus in Taurus, squares Saturn in Aquarius, semi-sextiles Neptune in Pisces, and trines the South Node in Capricorn. Now, if that doesn't tell you anything, don't worry about it. We will talk about that in more detail. But as you can see, there's a lot of planets and points connected to this new moon. And so this paints a very complex picture with the opportunity for change, an atmosphere for diversity, a need to redefine old structures, an extra effort to connect with our compassionate heart and our imagination, and a sense of knowing that all is well all of the time. But before we go into all these aspects in more detail, let me talk a little bit about Taurus first, right? Because the new moon is in Taurus, so we want to understand what that energy is all about. Now, Taurus is a very steady and peaceful energy, and it places more focus on our interaction with the physical world. So you could say we seek a healthier relationship with matter. So one way we can either feel we're not too attached to matter or to the physical, whether that's like material things or our own physical bodies. So we don't want to be too attached to that, but we also don't want to be too disconnected. And I think that's really important too. It's like really understanding how to really have a healthy connection to this, to the physical plane. So anything, like I said, the physical body, resources such as money, and the planet itself as well is of course of matter. And so we're powerfully reminded to take the time to really honor the planet that we live on, that we co-inhabit, and to also honor its resources and its beauty. And I think that in the last month or so, we've really seen, how the planet is a really miraculous, beautiful thing where, it can really heal itself. It can really interact with us. There's a real interactiveness between what we do and who we are, and how the planet shows up and its resources and how it connects with us. So I think we've all seen, what can happen when we stop abusing the planet, right? And in such a short amount of time, like within weeks, the planet was like kicking back and going like, hey, I'm healthy, I'm beautiful, I'm here, right? So I think that was something really beautiful to watch and to behold. Now, in the same spirit, we're also invited to honor ourselves, our bodies, our talents, right? Because this is also a physical body that we inhabit. And so this is a good time for reevaluating our relationship also to money and possessions, and for discovering what truly makes us happy and fulfilled. So just check in with yourself right now and just take a moment and just see what came to mind when you heard me talk about all of this. And maybe you want to journal on that, maybe you want to meditate on that. Maybe you just want to kind of take a moment and press the pause button and sit with that for a moment and just see what comes up in your awareness, in your consciousness as you heard me talk about that. Yeah, and that's always a good thing to do with my, because all my videos have a lot of coaching questions. So I just want to invite you to play with these questions and to not see them as like you have to answer them or you need to have an answer to the questions, but to just allow the questions to be sort of like a vehicle for you to get in touch with yourself, with your intuitive self, and also a vehicle to get in touch with the energies out there and to see how you can connect more with, the different aspects and the different signs that we're talking about. Now, let's talk a little bit about the aspects of the new moon chart that I mentioned a little bit earlier already. Now, the new moon aligns with Uranus in Taurus. That's a big one. And so this really underlines the message that we're ready to take the next step on our path. We're ready to kind of like leap forward in some way. And Uranus really symbolizes the desire for freedom, for equality, and most of all, progress. So with Uranus and Taurus, of course, that progress is connected to the Taurus energy. Progress in regards to all the physical stuff, to our resources, to the planet, to Earth, right? To our values, like how can we make progress, right? And also our willingness to innovate is really strong with this alignment. So new ways of seeing things, using things, approaching our personal possessions, our valuables, our money, our talents, all of that is going to kind of be part of that Uranian energy. We kind of looking to see like how can we honor our own individual process? How can we be our highest self? Uranus is an outer planet, which means it's connected to our soul process, to the collective process. So it's very important that we're allowing ourselves to really feel into this Uranian energy. Now, it really takes courage to try something new and different, right? And Uranus wants us to try something new and different. It wants us to break with the old and to connect to something new. And of course, Taurus is a sign that likes to hold on to things, or that likes to kind of like stay in a comfortable place. It doesn't want to be uncomfortable. So Uranus in Taurus is to some degree sort of like an oxymoron, you could say, because Taurus doesn't want to do anything new and Uranus says, hey, you need to do something new, right? So ask yourself here is, what is the next step on my journey towards becoming an ever stronger, healthy individual, one who honors and loves themselves and is not afraid to have different values from others? So it's really about allowing ourselves to be completely ourselves, to break free from, restrictions or from old ways of connecting to ourselves, and to really honor the body that we are, and to honor the talent that we are, and the right that we have to be ourselves and to be alive on this planet and in this form, right? So this alignment between Uranus and the new moon also asks us to break away from anything that's keeping us from honoring our uniqueness and our quirks. And so also, in a sense, whatever keeps us in a rut, right? Because sometimes with Taurus, we can get into this place of like being in a rut with things, and we just keep it the same old, and we don't realize that sometimes this rut is what kind of like takes the life out of us, right? It makes us feel less alive because we're not trying to get out of our comfort zone. So, and this is true collectively and individually speaking, because Uranus is connecting us to the collective. So shifts are really happening everywhere. And so it's really time to develop a really authentic sense of self-love and self-awareness. And so what you can ask yourself is, where do I want to have more certainty? Where do I want to break free? If I made a big leap, where would I most like to land right now? And could I surprise myself once a day for the next 28 days? because Uranus is all about surprises, right? It's all about doing something different, doing something a little crazy, right? Like getting out of your own skin. So can you do that? Is it possible for you to just surprise yourself once a day with something? And it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be little things. So feel free to journal on that or meditate on that and see what comes up for you. Now, if you want to have access to the new moon questions from this video in writing, because that can be sometimes helpful if you want to journal on it or if you want to do something with the questions. And also to the full moon video that I record every month, which is currently only available for members. Feel free to check out our various levels of membership on my website at astrologercoach.com. And whatever is a good fit for you, if you become a member, you will have access to all the new moon questions every month and the full moon videos and many more other things as well. Now, if you are already a member, then check your membership portal by signing into your account on my website, and you will find all my posts inside the My Content tab inside your member account. Now, the new moon questions will be available via the New Moon in Taurus article. So just make sure you click on New Moon in Taurus article, and that's where the new moon questions will be. Now, back to the new moon. We have so many more aspects to talk about, right? The new moon Uranus alignment also squares Saturn in Aquarius. And Uranus, of course, is the ruler of Aquarius. So you could say that, Saturn in Aquarius is squared by the ruler of its sign. So squares usually offer an invitation to stretch and grow and do something differently from how we've done it before. It's an invitation to shift something, to overcome something, that's familiar, right? To kind of move into another place. And for this particular square, this is even more true because Uranus is involved. And Uranus, of course, also likes change, wants to do things differently. So Saturn in Aquarius asks us to take responsibility for our part in the collective, to really turn a critical and a more serious eye to everything that we envision for our future and adopt an objective scientific approach. And so we are individually and collectively invited to clarify our thoughts, to clarify our visions, right, for the future. So what you want to ask yourself here is with this square, what do I value differently from others? Because there's Uranus in Taurus, which is kind of like different values and individualizing ourselves in terms of how we present ourselves and who we are. And then there is Saturn in Aquarius, which is about the collective and focusing on the future, right? So what do I value differently from others? And how could these differences spark a creative process, bringing diversity and a new approach to our collective interactions? And this is where a square becomes really interesting, because what we can do with a square is when we stretch ourselves, we can really create something completely new and different. So it's a very creative process in a sense, but it can also be a little bit challenging at first, right? Because stretching yourself means you have to go out of your comfort zone. Now, where do I need to be more flexible and think outside the box? And that's a really great question that could be very useful for the next 28 days, right? After the new moon becomes exact. Now, most of us want peace, right? Most of us want abundance for ourselves and for others. We want a world in which we can all appreciate and enjoy life with minimal interruptions and with the certainty that we're physically taken care of, right? I mean, I think that's a pretty common need for most people, for most of humanity. So what if my taking the time to focus on building a future that realistically supports all human beings could bring all of that about for everyone, myself included? So it's just something to think about, right? And something to kind of like allow ourselves, like what would that look like if we could stretch ourselves to that place where we could understand that if we focus on the collective and if we focus on everybody having a really wonderful future and inventing something that could create that, then maybe we would be able to have all those Tauran needs, right? That, appreciation and enjoyment for life, that certainty of like being physically taken care of, that sense of peace and abundance. Maybe we could all have that if we focus on the collective in that way. Now, the new moon also makes a semi-sextile to Neptune in Pisces. Now, a semi-sextile is usually a placement that feels a little bit uncomfortable. And so this is showing us that we may need to make a little bit of an extra effort to connect with our compassionate heart, with our imagination, and a sense of knowing that all is well all of the time. So over the next 4 weeks, just ask yourself, what might change for me if I knew for certain that everything is proceeding according to plan? What might change for me if I knew for certain that everything is proceeding according to plan? And again, this might take a little effort to allow ourselves to get to that place, right? Because it's a semi-sextile, it's not a trine, it's not a flow. It's, we need to work with this energy. We need to actually make time to get to that place. So what might reconnect me to trust in my own divinity and eternal nature? What are some things that I could do to feel that trust, that reconnection to my higher self, to my soul self, to my intuitive self? And what if I made an effort to practice being compassionate and kind with myself and others just for the next 20 minutes? And what if I decided actually right now to make this a daily practice for the next 28 days? So what if I could, for the next 28 days, once a day for 20 minutes, just make that a practice? Just decide, okay, I'm going to set these 20 minutes aside right now to just practice being compassionate and kind with myself and with others. And that might be a really valuable exercise, because the more we exercise something or the more we practice something, the better we get at it. And then it starts to become more of an autopilot. It's like brushing your teeth, right? The more you do it, the less you need to think about it. You just do it because it's become a habit. And I think it's important to create habits that really support us on an emotional and on a soul level as well, because these are the kind of habits that we are not usually conditioned into, and we're not really used to doing on a day-to-day level, because nobody usually has been showing us to do that, in terms of like how we grew up, or our caregivers, or our teachers. It's not really been a big part of the physical realm or the 3D experience, this sense of like really connecting to your intuitive self, to your heart self, to your soul self. It's not something that people grew up with necessarily, right? I mean, I certainly didn't. So making that a practice, and getting really good at that, and having this be a part of your day-to-day life, just like brushing your teeth, could be a really, really great thing to do, right? Now, the new moon also trines the south node in Capricorn. And a trine, of course, is a harmonious aspect. And so this invites us to kind of examine and redefine our old structures in our lives, individually and collectively speaking, and old ways of doing things, and to see how that might need to be revised or adjusted, in terms of our physical lives, physical achievements, career goals. So this could be connected to our long-term goals, could be connected to the economy, could be connected to authority figures, could be connected to governmental structures, all of the Capricorn stuff. So we can kind of take a look at that a little bit easier now and see, well, how do we want to work with this? What's really going to serve us with this? So you can ask yourself, where are my efforts best applied at this time? So where can I really apply myself at this time, and where would it be most useful? considering where I am right now in my life. What commitments am I ready to make? And really, literally considering where I am right now in my life. So not where you were a month ago, not where you were even just 10 days ago. Where you are right now in your life. And please make sure you ask yourself these questions after the new moon becomes exact. So even if you're watching this video before the new moon becomes exact, work with the questions the 28 days between the new moon and the next new moon. Really make sure you use the questions to tap into the new moon energy. So considering where I am right now in my life, what commitments am I ready to make? And where do I need to be more focused and disciplined in order to do that? And where do I want to be more effortless? Because sometimes with Capricorn, we get a little bit too intense and too focused. And, sometimes they can put way too much pressure on what we're doing or on ourselves. So where do I want to be more effortless? And where have I been limiting myself, wasting time, energy, resources? And where have I tried to control something outside of myself? And this is a really powerful question because, of course, when it comes to controlling things, we cannot control anything outside of ourselves. It's just not doable. Even if we think we can, even if we attempt to do that, it's not very fruitful usually. It usually comes with a lot of pushback and pain and all sorts of things that are very unpleasant. So where have I tried to control something outside of myself? And how might a realistic focus on myself and what I do have influence over support my efforts at this time? So this is something I say quite a lot, and I have been saying quite a lot because there's been so much going on in Capricorn. It's so important for us to focus on what we actually have influence over rather than trying to focus on the things that we don't have influence over. So this really helps us to get very present and very realistic about what is so when we actually focus on the stuff that we do have control over or that we do have influence over. So how might a realistic focus on myself and what I do have influence over support my efforts at this time? All right, so then another aspect here is Venus, which of course is the ruler of Taurus and is currently in Gemini, trines Mars in Aquarius in this new moon chart. So they're both in air signs and they're both in similar degrees. So this really helps us bring people together for mutual pleasure and benefit. So it's a very social connection. So even though we're currently trying to not be very social with each other on a physical level, on a mental level, we feel very social and we want to connect. So, and we do find it much, much easier at this time to get along, with each other, with a lot of different types of people, with men, women, a lot of different diversities. We have a tendency to be able to get along a little bit better. And there's also a feeling of flow around a common vision for life. So what you want to ask yourself is, if I knew I could easily connect with others, what would I pick to do? And what would you pick to do together, right? If you could find an activity or something that you want to do together with somebody else and talk about it, investigate it together, really create something. And of course, this can be online. This doesn't have to be in person. This could be something that you do, over the phone. But it's really a time to collaborate, right? It's a very collaborative spirit that this has. Now, Venus is also moving through her pre-shadow phase right now, which is the time period where she moves over the territory that she will later revisit during her retrograde phase, which will be from May 13 until June 25. And then again, also during the post-shadow phase, which is after the retrograde phase, from June 25 until July 28. So Venus goes through the same territory 3 times. Pre-shadow, retrograde, post-shadow. So because we're in the pre-shadow phase right now, that means that between now and May 13, which is when the retrograde phase begins, it is really crucial that we pay extra attention to anything that shows up in regards to physical matter, our values, relationships, appreciation of the physical realm, and the conversations that we have with others, or also in our own heads, our own inner dialogue on those subjects. So I recommend, between now and May 13, it might be a really good idea to have a journal around all those subjects. Anything to do with finances, anything to do with your physical body, anything to do with what's really, really important to you, with relationships, with, what your connection to this planet or to Earth, and all the conversations that come up around any of these subjects. So to write a journal or make a mental note of these things, or maybe write in your calendar what's come up on each day. And the reason why I'm suggesting to do that is because once Venus goes retrograde, you might need to readdress some of these things. So you might want to come back to those notes or to that journal and really see how is this viable now to what's going on during the retrograde phase, and how is that connected, and where do I need to realign myself with certain things, and what does it all mean to me? So it's a really valuable tool to use the shadow phase in that way. Now, we will also address the Venus retrograde phase and the station phase in Gemini in more detail in our next forecasting forum, which will be on May 3rd. So feel free to join us live if you'd like to. We'll be live at 11:30 a.m. on May 3rd, which is a Sunday. And some of the questions that we will address during this forum in relationship to our own birth charts will be: what values need to be reassessed in my life, in my relationships, in my finances, and what might a closer look reveal as we're looking at our own birth charts to see how this can unfold for each one of us individually speaking. So if you want to have more information about that, or if you want to register just for this month only, click on the link below this video, or you can also go to my homepage at astrologercoach.com, and there will be a countdown of the forecasting forum there, and you can click on register there. It will take you to the monthly forecasting forum page. Now, if you want to join for free every month, because we do this on a monthly basis, and it's really a wonderful support for people to have to see what's coming up each month, how does that impact me personally. So if you want to have that support every month, I suggest that you become a star member of my online community, because then you get automatically registered for these forecasting forums. And if you want to look at that, if you want to investigate that a little bit further, feel free to click on the link below this video, or you can also, on my homepage at astrologercoach.com, there will be a window that says, memberships, and you can click on that. Now, if you're already a universal member on my site, feel free to watch the members demo video to upgrade to star membership level if that sounds like something you'd like to do at this time. And also, please remember, you don't have to do it forever, right? You can do it for several months as we're going through these transitions, maybe through the end of the year if you like, and then you can go back to being a universal member. So you can switch back and forth between the different memberships at any time. You can also pause your memberships at any time and come back to us if you want to engage more with astrology again. So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of possibility with these memberships, okay? There will be a link below this video where you can watch the members demo video if you haven't seen it yet. But also always feel free to reach out to me or my assistant if you need any additional support at info@astrologercoach.com. All right, so let's go back to the new moon and some more aspects here. The last thing I want to talk about is Mercury in Aries squares the Jupiter-Pluto alignment in Capricorn, We already talked a little bit about the Jupiter-Pluto alignment in previous videos. But this square in particular, of course, is very important right now because Pluto is also exalted right now because it's getting ready for its yearly retrograde phase, which begins on April 25th. And so that literally happens a couple of days after the new moon becomes exact. So Pluto is very, very strong in the sky during the new moon. And so we're really being invited here to grow and make some changes in our lives, particularly in terms of our own thinking processes, right? Mercury has to do with our thinking. And so we want to find creative solutions, and we want to be more honest with ourselves and with other people as best as we can, be really authentic, be ourselves. And the best way to achieve this is by, continually practicing self-care, self-nurturing, and to make sure that we keep an open mind and an open heart. Because there might be a tendency to kind of clash a little bit with other people, or we might get a little bit stressed out or challenged in terms of how we want to say something, or we might say something too quickly or too impulsively, and then we might have to deal with the consequences of that. So it's really, really important with a square like that first of all, that we allow ourselves to be really conscious, that we allow ourselves to be maybe slow down a little bit, and to also make sure that we really take really good care of ourselves so that we can deal with something that might come up during this time a little bit better. So open mind, open heart, self-care, self-nurturing, all of that is very supportive. Now ask yourself, how could I bring more conscious awareness to my thoughts and any impulses to say things out loud, right? So we want to bring maybe 5% more conscious awareness to what's going on up there with our thoughts and our impulses right now. And also, am I reacting out of fear or responding from conscious awareness? Because when we're responding from conscious awareness, we can actually be much more connected to our heart space, right? When we're reacting out of fear, very often we are actually reacting from a place that is conditioned or from a place that's connected to the past. But conscious awareness always puts us back into the present moment, right? And the present moment is really very powerful and is very valuable to us at this time. So ask yourself, if you start to feel a little bit discomfort or a little bit of concern or fear show up, or an impulsiveness, around reactivity, something like that, just ask yourself, am I reacting out of fear or responding from conscious awareness? And maybe that question could then bring you a little bit more back into this place of conscious awareness. And you always want to do things with kindness, right, with these questions, because it's not about forcing yourself to be conscious. It's not about, beating yourself up if you're not being conscious, because, of course, all of us will sometimes be unconscious about certain things. It's just human to be that way. So we want to be kind with ourselves when it comes to these processes. We're all learning, right? We're all in this human experience together, and we're all learning how to get to this next place of being more conscious, being more aware, and in doing things in a way that is healthy and supportive to all of us and to the planet. So kindness is a really wonderful tool. Now, which is more strongly informing what's been shared or communicated? My past or my present? And that's a really wonderful question to ask as well if you find yourself in that, little bit unconscious place. Which is more strongly informing what's being shared right now or communicated? My past or my present? And sometimes, past can be anything that's up to 5 minutes ago or up to a minute ago. Everything that is not actually what's here right now, what's so right now, is the past. We sometimes think of the past as something that is far in the distance. That's our childhood, or that's like years ago, or at least months ago. we think, okay, that's the past. But what we don't often think of as the past is something that has just happened 5 minutes ago, because that's the past too, right? The present moment is really just the present moment. So which is more strongly informing what's being shared or communicated, my past or my present? Now, how might consciously empowering myself and others contribute to resolving issues swiftly and effortlessly? And so, of course, with a square like that, we want to really remind ourselves that it is possible that if we empower ourselves and other people, that we can start to overcome a lot of stuff, a lot of challenges or a lot of things where we're being asked to stretch ourselves right now. We can overcome that by really bringing a conscious effort towards empowerment, right? By reminding ourselves, is this actually something that empowers me right now? Is this something that empowers the other person right now? And just kind of letting ourselves come from that place. All right, now Pluto, of course, since it is stationing and is exalted right now, that brings an extra intensity to this process. And, that's why these questions can be very useful right now. And so Pluto shows us where we give our power away to others and where we abuse it ourselves. So what you really want to ask yourself here with this strong Pluto placement is, what structures do no longer empower me in my life? Whether that's structures that I've personally built, or structures that have been put upon me, or structures that I'm currently in because of a job that I have, or because of a career that I'm engaging in right now. Whatever structures, right? Could also be social structures that we're living within, right? What structures are no longer empowering to me? And what am I most aware of right now? And if I'm honest, what will almost inevitably break down over the long haul simply because it is no longer sustainable? So this is a really, really wonderful question to ask during a Pluto station, because that's when things are really in our face, right? We really get to see things much more clearly. And that's the beauty of a station phase, is that it helps us to become more conscious. It doesn't always feel good. It's not always pleasant, but it helps us to see it, right? Because normally we would maybe like ignore it, or we would brush it on the carpet, or we would kind of like distract ourselves. But when a planet is stationing and is exalted, that's so much more difficult to do. We can't just ignore it. We can't just, distract ourselves any longer. We're actually face to face with Pluto right now. So wherever this is happening in your life, if you're honest with yourself, what will almost inevitably break down over the long haul simply because it is no longer sustainable in your life? And this is also, of course, a question for the collective as well. But, since you have the most control over your own individual life rather than a collective, it is very important to keep focusing on ourselves with these questions. Now, to sum it all up for this new moon, it is in our best and highest interest to honor our unique spark and embrace change as much as possible. Becoming overly attached to staying the same or being the same is just as unresourceful here as rejecting our sameness that we have with others. So, really with this new moon in Taurus, we are all reminded that happiness is ultimately an inner state that is reached via an inner, highly individual process that each of us need to connect to and need to undergo. And so we all must honor our own values and find appreciation and inner fulfillment wherever we can, however we can. And the more we can honor ourselves, our talents, and our relationship to the physical realm in a healthy way, the more we can connect to the love and abundance that surrounds us in every single moment, that is just there all the time. So ask yourself, what would I need to add or subtract to experience my life as a place of peace, abundance, and radiant love. And might adding a daily dash of love, grace, and gratitude add to my experience of this physical journey, this human journey that we're on. And it's not an easy journey, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that being human is not easy, but it's also really incredibly rewarding. It can be so rewarding. So how can a daily dash of love, grace, and gratitude add to that journey? And how might I become more resourceful when approaching life's challenges? And resourceful it's already in there, right? It's not something we have to look outside of ourselves. There's so many resources inside of us already. So how can we just trust that we have all the resources that we need, each one of us, to meet life's challenges, to meet our challenges, to know that whenever something shows up in life that feels uncomfortable, that feels, kind of like where we're needing to be stretched in some way, how can we trust that we have what it takes in this now moment to meet life, to meet that, whatever is showing up? And what business or social aspirations am I now ready to adjust or redefine for myself? So of course, each one of us, some of us might be more connected to the social stuff that's going on currently. Some of us might be more connected to what's going on in our own lives with our own business goals or aspirations that we have. But what if I'm now ready to adjust or redefine all of this for myself? And what might happen if I became 5% more aware of my relationship to self-responsibility? Because self-responsibility is so powerful. Once we know how to really keep getting in touch with that, that can really make a huge difference in our way of approaching life, approaching other people, approaching ourselves. Self-responsibility, very powerful. Now, if you do have an ascendant or any personal planets in 1 to 6 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, then of course this new moon will impact you a lot more than other people. So I want you to take a look at your natal chart. If you have a birth chart, take a look and just look to see where does 3.5 degrees of Taurus land in that chart. Because that's another place where you can look to see how is this new moon going to impact you personally, which area of life is going to be most impacted for the next 28 days. And then you can also check out my 30-minute class on how to read my birth chart. You can get free access to that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. If you scroll down on the homepage and you go to a window that says free class, which is further down on the homepage, and you just click on that window, you can access this 30-minute class. And that will show you how to look that up in your own chart and how to align yourself with the new moon energy. Now, let's talk a little bit about intentions. How can we best set intentions with this new moon? Of course, always after the new moon becomes exact, very important, not before. And always when the moon is not void of course. A moon void, of course, does not lend itself very beautifully to setting intentions, so we want to avoid those. So this month, we have almost 46 hours to set intentions between 10:26 p.m. on April 22nd until 8:43 p.m. on April 24th. And all of that is New York time, US Eastern time. If you live outside of the Eastern time zone, and converting time zones isn't your thing, I suggest that you join me on my Facebook fan page, or you can follow me on Twitter. I will be posting reminders about setting intentions on April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th to let you know when it is time to set your intentions. So you can just, when you see those posts, Just sit down and set your intentions. And for more information about setting intentions, if you've never done that before, feel free to go to my website, go to the blog page, and then look for astrology articles. Or you can also look for the tag New Moon Intentions, which will be on the right side of the blog page if you look at my website from a computer. And there's also going to be a link below this video that you can click on for New Moon Intentions as well. Now, to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, you can also do that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com, or you can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line, and then we'll add you to our mailing list. The newsletter it goes out approximately once or twice a month. It has special offers, it has the videos, it has announcements about my courses or retreats or what I'm currently doing or the forums, So there's a lot that you can engage with the newsletter if that's of interest to you. If you want to ask any questions about what's coming up in the next 30 to 40 days, there's two options that you have. One, you can either book a reading with me online, a one-on-one via Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, phone, whatever works for you. Or you can also ask questions during the monthly forecasting forums. So I'm happy to answer questions during those forums as well. And the next one, of course, is on May 3rd, like I mentioned earlier already. And we will focus on the Venus retrograde phase in Gemini. And also the moon nodes are switching signs on beginning of May. So the moon nodes will move into Gemini Sagittarius for the next 18 months. So that's something we're also going to take a look at. So if you have any questions about anything that's connected to that, feel free to join us on May 3rd. You will also get access to the next Members Full Moon video if you register for the next monthly forecasting forum. And again, you can click on the link below this video to register, or on my homepage via the monthly forecasting forum countdown. And there is an early bird special that will be available until April 30th. So please feel free to take advantage of that as well if you're not a star member already. And my members will see me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon. So we can look at how far we've come since setting new moon intentions. And everyone else will see me in about 4 weeks for the next new moon. Please stay healthy and stay safe and stay centered and keep focusing on yourself and do what feels most empowering to you and what feels most nourishing, nurturing to you, so that you can connect and adapt to what's coming in the next couple of months or in this lunar month, and keep raising your own frequencies, right? That's also something that you can do for yourself and for the collective as well. All right, much love to all of you. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.